Morning students, welcome back. So as we have studied with our LAQs, SAQs and all, we are going to discuss with our few chapters here. So today we will discuss few more topics in our second chapter, that is theory of consumer behavior, right? So like yesterday we have discussed with our law of diminishing marginal utility. Hope you all have gone through that answer, you have prepared with that answer, because that law of diminishing marginal utility is very, very important question from exam point of view. Okay, so after the diminishing marginal utility, now we are going to discuss with few more topics which are important in this chapter. Okay, so in law of diminishing marginal utility, what we have studied, as we consume more quantity, the satisfaction, the additional satisfaction will be decreasing. And the law was explained in case of a single good, right? So now we have certain limitations. We have certain limitations from this law where we have seen cardinal measurement is not possible in reality. Marginal utility of money will never be constant. So in that case, now we are going to use the another approach, that is ordinal utility approach. Okay, so ordinal utility approach. Now based on ordinal utility, so based on ordinal utility, we will study indifference curve. On ordinal utility, we will study why? Because in reality, we cannot use cardinal utility, means we cannot measure our satisfaction. That is the reason this ordinal utility approach was explained by Hicks and Allen, as we have studied in the previous class. So now let us discuss with our indifference curves. Indifference curves, it is a 2 marks question here, right? What are indifference curves? The curves which shows the same level of satisfaction by a consumer, means when consumer consumes more than one commodity, right? So the combination of two goods he will do. Generally, you take as a consumer, will we be satisfied by consuming only one commodity? No. What we will do? We will try to do the combination of the goods. So that combination, how we are getting the satisfaction, that is explained in indifference curve. So indifference curves are nothing but which shows combination of two goods which gives same level of satisfaction, right? So the combination of two goods which gives the same level of satisfaction, this is called as indifference curve. Just I will draw the graph, you try to understand this one. Generally, we say on x-axis we measure good X and on y-axis we measure good Y, right? For example, this is one combination. One combination in the sense, more of X I am taking, less of Y I am taking. One more combination, I decrease Y and I increase X commodity. Like you can take apple and banana, means whenever we try to satisfy our want, what we are doing, we try to combine with other commodity, right? We will not take only one. We try to do the combinations here. That combination should be in such a way that we should get the same level of satisfaction. So now this is one combination A, this is another combination B. Now what I am doing in the combination, I reduced Y, means I decreased bananas and I increased apples. Okay, then this is combination C. This is one more combination, that is D. Now, when you join all the combinations here, this is an indifference curve. See, why we call it is indifference curve? Because either you take combination A, or you take combination B, or you take combination C, or combination D. You are going to get the same level of satisfaction. That is the reason here, as they are getting the same level of satisfaction, consumer will be indifferent towards the combination. Indifferent towards the combination. Why he is indifferent? Because either you take A, B, C or D. Any combination you take, you are getting same level of satisfaction. When you are getting same level of satisfaction, which one you will choose? Anything you can choose, right? That's why consumer will be indifferent towards the combination. This is called as indifference curves. Okay. Now, these curves are also called as iso-utility curve, or equal utility curve, right? These curves are all, these indifference curves are also called as iso-utility curve or equal utility curve. Means any combination you take, we are getting the same level of satisfaction. That's why it is called as equal utility curve. Is it clear with indifference curves? What do you mean by indifference curves here? Indifference curves means combination of two goods which gives the same level of satisfaction. Okay, so consumer will be indifferent towards the combination, because any combination he can take here, because all the combinations are giving same level of satisfaction. And these curves are also known as iso-utility curve or equal utility curve. Clear? So this is one question for your 2 marks. Just understand the concept. Okay. Now, just once go through this one. Combination of two goods which gives the same level of satisfaction. Consumer will be indifferent toward the combination. And these are also known as the iso-utility or equal utility curve. So, this curve is called as indifference curve. Now, coming to the next question in this indifference curve, we have second question, that is indifference map. This is also very, very, very important. Most of the time repeating question. What is indifference map? Indifference map is nothing but set of indifference curves. Set of indifference curves which shows different levels of satisfaction. Which shows different levels of satisfaction. Right? This is called as indifference curves. What is the point over here? What do you mean by indifference map? Map means what? When we have more than one curve. Okay. So just see the map over here. On x-axis, we are taking good X because two goods we are combining here. And on y-axis, good Y. Now, for example, this is my indifference curve. I see one, I will name it as, right? Means on this curve, any combination you take, you will get the same level of satisfaction, right? Now, if you increase the quantity, means you're taking more the quantities of Y as well as X, more quantity. When you have more money, obviously you'll take more quantity, right? So we will get one more indifference curve. The combination will change here. So shows different levels of satisfaction. See, IC3 will give you higher satisfaction because you are taking more quantity. IC2 will give less than IC3 because the quantity is less than IC2 here. Then IC1, which is less than IC3. But the combination on this will give the same level of satisfaction. So the set of indifference curves which shows different levels of satisfaction is called as indifference map. Clear? Now, this is your 2 marks question. You have to write down the meaning as well as the graph you have to show, right? And one more point you can add over here. Higher curve shows higher satisfaction than the lower one. Higher curve shows higher satisfaction than the lower one. Why IC3 is showing more satisfaction than IC1? Because in IC1, our quantity is less. In IC3, the consumption of the quantity what we are taking is more. When we take more, we should get more satisfaction. When we take less, we will get less satisfaction. The same thing is the reason over here. Okay, so this is called as indifference map. One more important, mostly repeated question, indifference map. What is indifference map? Set of indifference curves which shows different levels of satisfaction. Higher curve shows higher satisfaction than the lower one. Okay, so this way we have indifference map. This is one more important 2 marks question. Now, next question we are going to discuss in the same concept, that is third question, marginal rate of substitution. What is marginal rate of substitution? As the name itself says, marginal rate of substitution. Substituting. Here what we are doing in indifference curve, we are substituting one commodity with another commodity, right? Just a simple example I'll show you here. Now we are taking X commodity and Y commodity. Okay, you can take anything, blue pen, black pen, something like that. Also example we can take it. If I take one X commodity, I will combine that with 15 Y commodities. This will give me one level of satisfaction, right? Now here combination. First combination is what? 1X plus 15Y. Second combination is what? I increase X. When I increase X, I should decrease my Y. Because if I increase both, my satisfaction will increase. But that will not come in my budget also. I cannot increase both of the commodities. So what I will do? I will decrease Y and I will increase X. I'll decrease Y and I will increase X. So the next combination, I reduced Y to 11 because I increased X, no? Right? Now, third combination, 3 of X I am taking and 8 of Y I am taking. Fourth combination, 4X, 6Y. Fifth combination, 5X, 5Y. So like this, I have taken the combinations. What I have done? See, now either you take first combination, second combination, third, fourth or fifth, you will get the same level of satisfaction. Why you will get same level of satisfaction? Because if though I reduced one commodity, I am increasing another commodity. That is the reason I am getting the same level of satisfaction. Okay, so our indifference curve is concept is this much. Now, in this, we are going to calculate what is marginal rate of substitution of X and Y. Means how much we are substituting. Substituting means what? Replacing. One commodity is substituted for another commodity. Means what? Now when I decrease Y, this decrease is substituted by X commodity, because X I am increasing here, right? The decrease in Y is substituted by increase in X. That is what we say marginal rate of substitution. So now generally when you see the marginal rate of substitution, in the first combination we do not have any satisfaction, means any substitution. Now see the second combination. How many Y we reduced? 15 to 11. How many we decreased here? 4. That 4 is substituted by how many X we increased over here? 1. Okay. Next, 11 to 8. How many Y we reduced? 3 Y commodities are substituted by 2 to 3. 1 X commodity, right? Then 2 Y commodities are substituted by 1 X commodity. 1. This way we are doing the substitution. This concept is called as marginal rate of substitution. So just see here, what is marginal rate of substitution here? It shows how much of one commodity, marginal rate of substitution, it shows how much of one commodity is substituted for another, right? So what we are saying here, how much one commodity is substituted for another. That is what we say marginal rate of substitution. So how we calculate here? One more point also we can add here. As consumer goes on substituting, what happens to our marginal rate? Marginal rate is decreasing here, right? As consumer goes on substituting X and Y, the marginal rate of substitution diminishes. The marginal rate of substitution diminishes. Remember these points carefully. Very, very important for your 2 marks. So how we calculate here? Marginal rate of substitution for X and Y is equals to, how the formula we will write here? Delta Y by delta X. Delta Y means what? Change. See this symbol delta. Delta means change. So here change in Y by change in X. We got 4 and 1. The same thing, the formula we have to use here. Okay. So this is called as marginal rate of substitution. So this is marginal rate of substitution for your 2 marks. The next one we are having, right, after this we have next question, budget line. What is budget line? Budget line means here budget. Generally we all know budget means what? How much income we are having, how much we are able to spend the money. So budget line, it shows the 2 combination. Budget line shows the combination of 2 goods based on what we are doing the combinations? Based on price of the commodity, price of the good, and income of consumer based on price of the good and income of the consumer. Whenever we do the combinations, generally when you go to market, you want to purchase 2 or more items. You do the combinations here. I will take so many apples and so many mangoes I will take this much combination. That all how we will plan, whatever the money we are having, with that, how many we can purchase. So that shows the price of the good, what is the price of that product in the market, as well as how much income you're having with you. Depending on that, when we do the combinations, it is called as budget line. Okay, so now this budget line, how we are doing, for example, consumer is having rupees 20 with him. Okay, X commodity is just we will take here 100 rupees you are having, X is 20 rupees and Y is 10 rupees. How you will do the combination now? How many X you will take? How many Y you will take? For example, just for your convenience, we will take it as blue pen and black pen. You have 100 rupees with you, right? How many blue pens you will purchase? How many black pens you will purchase? So blue pen cost is 20 rupees. Black pen cost is 10 rupees. So now you have to make the combination here. So see, X and Y we are taking. First combination. If you take all X, only X you are taking, 0 Y. You don't want any black pen. You want only blue pens. So how many you can take here? With 20 rupees, you have 100 rupees. But the price is 20 rupees. So how many you can take? 5, right? Because 5 into 20 is 100, no? Right. The next combination, what we will have here? Next combination. If I take one black pen means how many it has gone over here? Okay, we will take 2 black pens over here. Why? Because 20 it is there, no? So 2 black pens I am taking here. When I take 2 black pens, how many I will take here? I'll take 4. Right? This is one combination because 4 2s 80 plus 2 10s 20. 80 plus 20 is our 100. Right? With 100 rupees, I can buy 2 black pens and this one. Then next combination, you can make the combinations like this. 2 and 6, 1 and 8, 0 and 10. When I'm not taking X commodity, with all the 100 rupees, I can take 10 Y commodities. So this way we will do the combinations over here. On what basis combination is dependent? Price of the commodity. Here prices are given and income of the consumer. How much money I am having. Depending on that only I am making my budget line. Okay. Now same thing we will show with the help of a graph also here. On x-axis good X and on y-axis good Y. So this is the budget line or price line, right? This line is called as budget line or price line. Okay, so what is budget line or price line here? Budget line or price line means it shows the combination of 2 goods which are based on price of the commodity, price of the good and income of the consumer. This is called as our budget line, right? Hope it is clear for you all. Then next one, after this budget line, we will do, now these are the main important 2 marks questions here. Now next we are going to discuss the properties of indifference curves. Properties of indifference curves. This is a compulsory or very important 5 marks question. Okay, very important 5 marks question. Every time they're asking this question for 5 marks here, short answer, properties of indifference curves. What are the properties of indifference curves? Like we know, what is indifference curve? Indifference curve, it shows the combination of two goods which shows the same level of satisfaction. Now here certain properties are there. The properties are, first one, indifference curve is always negatively sloping downwards. First property is what? Indifference curve is always negatively sloping downward. Negatively sloping means what? You see the curve here? Our curve is always sloping downwards only, no? Why it is sloping downwards? Because in the combination, if one good is increasing, another good is decreasing. So you have to write down the reason for this, right? Then only your weightage will be there for your answer. Why they are negatively sloping downwards here? Because in the combination of two goods, if one good increases, another good decreases. Same thing you see here. See, if I have more of y, I have less of x. If I reduce one, I have to increase one. That is the reason they are sloping downwards over here, right? So why they are negatively sloping downwards? Because in combination of two goods, if one good increases, another good decreases. That is the reason they are sloping downwards. Now, the next reason, the next property is they are always convex to the origin. Convex to the origin. What do you mean by convex? Generally, when you see here, this is the origin. To this origin, my curve is always convex. It is not like this, right? My curve is convex. Convex, why it is convex? Because the rate of whatever the substitution we are doing, now x commodity is decreased. Sorry, y is decreased and x is increased. In the combination, whatever the substitution I am doing, the rate of substitution is diminishing. Okay, why they are convex to the origin? The indifference curves are convex to the origin because of diminishing marginal rate of substitution, because of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. That is the reason they are convex to the origin. They are not concave. Convex means the minimum point will face towards the origin. That's why it is called as convex. Okay. Now, the next property here is the indifference curves will never intersect each other. Why our indifference curves will never intersect each other? For example, you see here, now in this indifference curve, this is one curve, this is one curve, this is another curve. We will have curves like this, but we will never have the curve like this. Means it will never intersect. Why? Because each curve shows different levels of satisfaction. Why they never intersect each other? Because each indifference curve shows different levels of satisfaction. Right? So because each indifference curve shows different levels of satisfaction. Right. So here we have got this one, negatively sloping downwards, convex to the origin. never intersect each other. And last property is higher curve shows higher satisfaction. Higher curve shows higher satisfaction than lower one. Why higher curve shows higher satisfaction than the lower one? See, in our indifference curves, we have seen here. Now, this is in this curve, IC1, IC2, IC3. In this, I say IC3 gives me more satisfaction compared to IC1. Why? Because in lower curve, the quantity what I am taking is in less, right? Less quantity I am taking over here. Whereas in IC3, I am taking more quantity. That is the reason IC3 gives me higher satisfaction. IC curve, higher curve shows higher satisfaction than lower one because on higher curve, the quantity consumed is more than lower one, right? Means on higher curve, we are taking more quantity. That is the reason curve is upwards. And lower curve, the quantity what we are taking is less. That's why it will give less satisfaction. Clear? So these are the properties of indifference curve. Very simple, only 4 points. Your 5 marks answer. Very, very easy and simple answer and important answer. So what are the properties of indifference curves here? Indifference curves are negatively sloping downwards. Why they are negatively sloping downwards? Because in combination of two goods, if one good increases, another good decreases. You have to write down the reasons also. Then only you will get marks here. Now, why it is convex to the origin? Because of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Why it will never intersect each other? Because each curve shows different levels of satisfaction. If they intersect, again it will be against our indifference curve. And higher curve shows higher satisfaction than the lower one because on the higher curve, the quantity what we are taking means in the combination. In the combination, the quantity what we are taking is more compared to that of lower curve. That is the reason higher curve shows higher satisfaction, lower curve shows lower satisfaction, less satisfaction, right? So these are the properties of indifference curves. Okay, so this completes your 5 marks question here. So what all the questions we have discussed till now, just go through once here. So first question is indifference curve. What is indifference curve? It shows the combination of two goods which gives same level of satisfaction, right? Consumer will be indifferent towards the combination. These indifference curves are also called as iso-utility curve or equal utility curve, right? Then next one, indifference map. What is indifference map? Set of indifference curve which shows different levels of satisfaction is called as indifference map. Each curve shows different level of satisfaction. Higher curve shows higher satisfaction than the lower one. This is called as indifference map. Next one is marginal rate of substitution. What is marginal rate of substitution? It shows how much of one commodity is substituted for another. Means how much we are substituting. As consumer goes on substituting X and Y, the marginal rate of substitution diminishes. Like we have seen with this example here. So how we calculate marginal rate of substitution? MRS XY is equals to delta Y by delta X. Next, budget line. It shows the combination of two goods based on, here you see, price of the commodity and consumer's income. Okay, price of the good and consumer's income. Depending on that, we do various combinations here, right? That is called as budget line. This budget line is also called as price line. Don't get confused again. They are asking price line, but we have studied budget line. Budget line or price line is the one and the same. Okay, so the combination of two goods based on the price of the commodity and consumer's income. That is called as budget line. When you get this question for 2 marks, you write down the meaning and you do the graph. You will get 2 on 2. Next question is important 5 marks question. What are the properties of indifference curves? There are 4 properties of indifference curves, right? Negatively sloping downwards. The indifference curve is always sloping downwards only, because in the combination, if one good increases, another good decreases. It is convex to the origin because of the rate of substitution. What we are doing, the marginal rate of substitution is diminishing, and it will never intersect each other because each curve shows different levels of satisfaction. If they intersect, that doesn't that will never be called as an indifference curve. Now, higher curve shows higher satisfaction than the lower one. Why? Because on the higher curve, in the combination, the quantity of 1 or 2 goods will be more. The quantity what we are consuming is more in number. That's why higher curve shows higher satisfaction. Clear? So this completes your SAQ, VSAQs, and also LAQ. LAQ we have done with law of diminishing marginal utility, right? Now, in this chapter, you have one more optional LAQ, that is consumer equilibrium using indifference curve analysis. So for that, you have to remember all these points here, indifference curves, budget line and all. So briefly, I'll explain you that LAQ also. So the LAQ is consumer equilibrium using indifference curve analysis. Okay, so what is the question? Explain the consumer's equilibrium using indifference curve analysis. Consumer equilibrium means what? Consumer is getting maximum satisfaction with his limited income. How he will get that one? See, as a consumer, as we are rational, right? What we want? We want to spend less money because our income is limited, but we want to get maximum satisfaction. How that is possible here? With limited money, how can we get maximum satisfaction? We will see that in this consumer's equilibrium. So in this, you will be writing the introduction here. What you will be writing the introduction here? Consumer will get maximum satisfaction with his limited income. Consumer tries to get the maximum satisfaction with his limited income, because now in economics what we study, limited resources, maximum utilization, same thing. Consumer also, he is having limited income. With that limited income, he wants to get maximum satisfaction. So how that is possible, we will explain within this law. So to explain this law, again, we make certain assumptions here. What are the assumptions over here? The assumptions is that consumer is having an indifference map. So consumer's indifference map is there based on the scale of preference, and money given is constant. Money income is constant. Indifference map is based on scale of preference. Means what he prefers first. That is first assumption. Second assumption, money income is given and it is constant. Then third assumption we make, prices of goods. We know the prices of goods and they are constant. Means throughout explaining this law, the price of the goods will remain the same. And also we assume that consumer is rational and tries to get maximum satisfaction. And he will try to get the maximum satisfaction. And throughout this law, we assume that there is no change in taste and preferences of the consumer. Means with these assumptions, we will explain this law, right? So these are the assumptions of the law. Now, how we will explain this law? Consumer tries to get the maximum satisfaction with his limited money. So to explain consumer equilibrium, there are two conditions of the law. What are the two conditions of the law over here? At first condition is that budget line must be tangent to indifference curve. Budget line, like previously we have studied what is budget line. That must be tangent. Tangent means what? Touching at its minimum point. Okay. Budget line must be tangent to indifference curve. And consumers, second condition is that consumers MRSXY, that is marginal rate of substitution of X and Y, and price ratio must be equal, right? Means whatever the price they are paying for the two commodities, that should be equal to the satisfaction, what the substitution they are doing. So these two conditions will be there. Okay, now to explain this law, we are using the two tools. Okay, so here when I'm doing the explanation of the law, to explain this consumer equilibrium, we use two tools. What are the two tools we are using here? One is Indifference Map and the other one is budget line. Okay, what are the two tools we are using to explain this law? Indifference map and budget line, right? So we all know what is indifference map. We know how the budget line will be there. Now, depending on this, how consumer will get equilibrium, we will see. This will be explained with the help of a graph. Just see the graph carefully here. On x-axis, good x, and on y-axis, good y. So to explain consumer equilibrium, what I'm saying here, I'm using two tools. What are the two tools? Indifference map. What is indifference map? Like previously only we discussed. What is indifference map? Set of indifference curves. Okay. So IC1, IC2, IC3. Now I got my indifference map here, right? Indifference map is nothing but set of indifference curves, right? What is budget line? It shows the combination of two goods based on price of the commodity and consumer's income. Okay, So my budget line is sloping downwards like this. So this is my budget line or price line. Now understood the graph here. First, what I'm doing, I'm drawing indifference map, which is set of indifference curves. Then I'm doing the budget line. Like just now we have discussed what is budget line. It shows the combination of two goods based on price of the good and income of the consumer. Now, we have drawn the two tools. What are the conditions of equilibrium? Budget line must be tangent. Tangent means what? Touching at its minimum point. Okay. Now, if you see in the graph, my budget line, it is touching both IC1 and IC2. But on IC1, it is touching at 2 points. So this condition is not satisfied. Which condition? Now IC2. Now on IC2, it is touching at its minimum point. So it is tangent. Okay. So OM commodity of Y good and ON commodity of X good, if consumer consumes, he will get that in budget. If you see IC3, it is beyond my budget. Can I purchase that quantity? Because more quantity, higher indifference curve means what? More the quantity I'm taking. But my income is not sufficient to purchase that higher quantity. Lower quantity, my income is more than lower quantity. My satisfaction will not be there on the IC1 curve. So at this point, my income is sufficient to get that maximum satisfaction. Okay. So if consumer consumes ON of X commodity and OM of Y commodity, he will be getting maximum satisfaction with his income. So this point is called as equilibrium. So E is the point of consumer equilibrium, right? At point E, consumer is getting maximum satisfaction with his limited income, right? This is what was explained in your indifference curve, consumer's equilibrium using indifference curve. Very simple answer, very small answer, right? And this weightage is 10 marks, right? You have an option here. Either maximum 90%, they will ask law of diminishing marginal utility for 10 marks. Sometimes they may ask this question also for 10 marks. Okay. So what is the question here? Explain the consumer equilibrium using indifference curve analysis. So what you will do? First thing, what do you mean by consumer equilibrium? Equilibrium means what? Equal. What should be equal? Whatever money I am giving, that should be equal to the satisfaction what I'm getting. Okay. How much money I'm paying, that much satisfaction I want. That is what we say. Consumer tries to get maximum satisfaction. Consumer tries to get maximum satisfaction with his limited income. That is called as consumer equilibrium. Now, what are the assumptions we are making? We assume that consumer's indifference map is given based on scale of preference, right? Money income of the consumer is given, means our income levels we know and they are constant. Price of the goods are given and they are constant. Consumer is rational, always wants maximum satisfaction, and there is no change in consumer's taste and preferences. Okay. So with these assumptions, we have explained the law. What are the conditions for the law here? The conditions to get consumer equilibrium is budget line must be tangent to the indifference curve. Consumer's marginal rate of substitution of X and Y must be equal to price ratio. That both should be equal. That means what? Here, MRS XY. Marginal means what the substitution I'm doing for X and Y must be equal to price of XY, price of Y. Okay. So this is how we have the two conditions. Now, if these two conditions are satisfied, then we can say that consumer is in equilibrium. Now, to explain the law, we use two tools. What are the two tools we are using over here? One is indifference map and budget line. As in the previous topics only, we have discussed the indifference map and budget line. Both we are giving here. Now, indifference map, what it shows the different combinations which gives us different levels of satisfaction. What budget line will show? It will show what is our income. Okay, so what income we are having, with that income, what combination we can purchase, how much satisfaction we can get. Because satisfaction is shown by indifference curves, my income is shown in budget line. So with that income, how much satisfaction I'm getting? So I will try to maximize my satisfaction over here. Okay, if you see, IC3, it is beyond my budget, so I will not purchase that one. Why? Because the quantity is more here. IC1, which is less than my budget, but it is not giving me maximum satisfaction. Though it is less than my income, I'm not getting full satisfaction over there. So I will not go for IC1. IC2 is the point where my money is equal to what my satisfaction I'm getting. So in consumer equilibrium, what I said, equilibrium means what? How much money we are spending should be equal to what is the satisfaction we are getting. That is what is we are getting at this point E. That's why we call it as equilibrium. Okay, so this is the consumer's equilibrium using indifference curve analysis. So with this, we have completed our second chapter. In second chapter, we have done with law of diminishing marginal utility. Very, very important 10 marks question. And one more question is your consumer equilibrium using indifference curve. Out of these two, you will get one question compulsory. Diminishing marginal, 90% they may give that question, but sometimes they may give this also. Simple answer, you can go through this one. Okay. Then you have all the VSAQs, cardinal utility, ordinal utility, like already we have discussed that one. Cardinal utility, ordinal utility, total utility, marginal utility, then budget line or the price line, then marginal rate of substitution, indifference map, right? And all. One more 5 marks question will be your properties of indifference curves. Clear? So this is the these are the important questions from your second chapter. Just go through all the topics, whatever the important points we have discussed in the class, right? Next class, we are going to start with our third chapter. Okay, so from your second chapter, you have LAQ, SAQ, and VSAQs. One LAQ, one SAQ, and 2 VSAQs are compulsory from this chapter. Whatever we have discussed, you just go through that one. So this chapter will be completed. Okay, so in next class, we are going to start with our next chapter. Thank you.